upbringing, mentorship, any of that along the way, and we'll close after that because we're gonna bring you back again.
Sure. So my father's a school teacher, mother a nurse. My dad is probably the single most risk-averse person I have ever met in my life. Early in my life, I would tell him some crazy thing I was going to do. And he would say, "Why would you do that?" And I don't know, why not? and it puzzled him for a while who I was, I think. And, when I decided to run for the legislature at age 24, he scratched his head, but he was my treasurer. He kept track of my checkbook for me. So I needed that because I'm not very good at that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And my mother was the creative. So my dad, linear, mother creative. She after she retired, she wrote 10 books before she had a stroke. Wow. And so, yeah, you can find her books on Amazon under Joyce Grubbs. They all are sort of mysteries, but they all deal at some level or another with child abuse or sexual abuse, bringing that issue to light.
So they're all under Joyce Grubbs.
Yep, that's her author's name, and there are 10 of them on Amazon if people want to read them.
Is she still alive? Is she still alive?
Still alive, that's right.
How's she doing?
She doesn't write anymore. When she had her stroke, it made it set her back because that affects brain function.
Yeah.
And so now she's a grandmother, but she got her 10 books out there, and that was over about a 3 or 4 year period. So pretty impressive.
When you get a chance, if you ever want to go back and listen to Roberto Trujillo's podcast, right? He's doing great things to improve stroke victims, connecting those neurons again and all that. So if you ever want to meet him, I'll get you in front. He's my good buddy today, and I'm a friend and an investor in his technology. But I'm telling you right now, he's doing amazing things for stroke victims, just so you know.
You said 10 books in 2 years, you said?
About 3 to 4 years, yeah.
3 to 4 years.
Crazy.
And I don't want to mischaracterize where she is now. She's come back strong, but she just didn't write again after that. Yeah. So but she's a great grandmother and a great mother. So I grew up with a linear father, a creative mother, and I'm a little bit of a mix of those two, but very, very middle class. My dad was the person who never really felt money was very important, and so I grew up, asking, "Hey, can we do this? Can we do that?" So I was no. And so I grew up finding value in money and making money. And so that was something that was important to me. At the same time, my mother was the do-gooder. She worked for the homeless for many years. And so I always kept that sight on, how can we make the world a better place?
Yeah.
But still make a little bit of money and have some fun.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think those two things are mutually exclusive. And I also, growing up, had a pastor who was influential in that he talked a lot about dreaming big and that, to dream, to do great things. Mm-hmm. And that was very influential as well, helped me understand that we don't have to exist within the small neighborhood that we might exist in. That's fine if one wants to, but if we want to reach out and do big things that are national or international in scope, just do it. Yeah. And he would in with his faith sermons, he would have these motivational sermons. And because of that, in little Davenport, this church grew to like 5,000 people.
Wow.
It was a big deal. It was one of those early sort of mega churches.
Right.
But his motivational sermons impacted me as a youth, and that was important.
Well, yeah, how cool is that, right? Why can't that be a little more often? I hate to say in our church, our Catholic churches, they don't seem to really go after any of that, right? When it comes to just personal motivation beyond faith. I mean, faith is a motivational thing too, and a personal motivation, right? If you listen well, but boy, why not, right? Talk these parishioners into what they can do beyond what they think they can do, right? Using their faith and using that confidence. Because if you're a God-loving person and you really want to do great things for the world, right? Because you're compassionate, hopefully, if you believe in your faith, Well, how cool is that then if you have a pastor feeding that to you, or a priest feeding that to you as well, to create more motivational minds that'll serve in the future way better than otherwise,
Yeah, it seems like you have to put that guy in VR.
Yeah.
He has done some amazing things. He's actually created a center for AIDS patients in Los Angeles after he left Iowa. So he's done a lot of very big things in his life because that's how he views the world.
What other mentors can you think about that make you who you are, that you may not be quite who you are without them in your life?
My first boss was a guy named Tom Talkie, and he was a congressman. I worked for him. Then he left Congress and he went to work for 9X. So you may not remember 9X, but there were, I think, 10 Baby Bells, Southwestern. There's one in Chicago. We had ours. Ultimately, those Baby Bells all started like coming together, like the enemy of the Terminator. They like, and so every time two Baby Bells would merge, he was a vice president. The vice presidents, there would be two of them, and one would get fired or take a leave, and one would survive. He kept surviving because he was very good. And he taught me so much about dealing with people and thinking, even though he was in politics, he was a very great critical thinker. And he dealt extremely well with people. He was a Republican who represented the Democrat district, but he was devout Catholic. The nuns loved him. Sometimes they struggled to vote for him, but they loved him. And he taught me how to really deal a lot with people. Ultimately, after several mergers, he ended up being the vice president of government relations or public relations for Verizon. And when he finally retired from Verizon, was one of the top executives at one of the world's largest companies. And so the lessons I learned from him were extremely valuable, and I think about them often today when I'm dealing with the human part of business.
What's one that you would think you'd call one of his best lessons that you got from him? Can you think of one specific?
Yeah, sure. I was his driver when he was running for Congress, and this was the early days when partisanship was really taking root in Congress. And he would frequently vote against his party. And I'm reading the papers, I'm a young guy, and I wanted to understand that. And he told me, he said, look, the higher you rise in the politics, the more you're gonna have to compromise yourself. And this is a reality. At this point in my life, I'm not that high in politics. I don't have to compromise myself. And so, I choose to do what I think is right. And, I don't hold it against those who rise to the highest levels when they have to make some compromises, because that's sort of the nature of the beast. But the longer you can stay true to yourself, the better off you'll feel about yourself. And I certainly was in politics for a while. I certainly made some compromises at different times to get things done. But those words always ring out, and I've tried to live by those words. Sometimes I've done it well, sometimes I've done it poorly, but I've tried to live by them.
Well, it's nice when you, in his position, your position, and mine, when you can be a part of what you want to be a part of. You don't have to compromise. I mean, we should compromise often when we know there's a great reason to. But if it's principally related, don't have to if you don't want to, if you don't need the job, right? That's why I love politicians. I love entrepreneurs that don't need the job, don't have to have the job, because they have so much confidence and intelligence or passion that they can go anywhere and get another job, right? No reason to compromise or fear their job or losing their job by compromising their principles, right? So I love politicians, business leaders, entrepreneurs that and people in business that work on my teams that they don't have to have this job. They're here because they love it, and they're not going to compromise their principles, right? So that's an awesome lesson. I love it.
That's right.
What do you think of that as a young guy, Nick?
It sounds refreshing. I mean, to deal with somebody who won't make compromises will definitely rub you the wrong way occasionally, but I think there's a level of trust that you establish through that, right? And it's more sustainable, I think.
Well, Steve, we're gonna round this up right now, and again, I'm gonna make sure, Chris, that we get Steve back after we have some more crazy success stories and chalk bites and what we're doing there.
Yeah, I want to talk more just about VR in general too.
So we got to get back into that because it's such an emerging industry that's going to change the world. But thinking about change the world, our goal is to have people that we know or don't know on this show, Ditch Digger CEO, people that have built something from nothing, more often than not, and people that are going to change the world and always are going to look to give back and be a part of good things that make this world a better place. And Steve, you're an awesome example of that, buddy. You and Kelly have done awesome stuff for your community that we didn't talk about. You're not a guy that's going to brag about these things, but awesome stuff in your community. You're in industries because you want to do things to change the world. And man, think of the lives that you're going to be able to save. And hopefully I can be part of continuing on with helping in this business with you any way I can to change the world and make us a safer place. People die every day in my industry. You talk about forklifts. We run these skid steers a lot. We have 50, 60 of these things in the field, and they look like harmless little machines, 4-wheel drive machines, but people die every day getting run over by these things, right, or getting thrown out of them or whatever. And you're this business. I'm going to say ours because I got a couple bucks in this thing right now, man. Our business can change the world when it comes to my industry. So it's so much fun to be part of something that I can directly see in the industries I'm in, right? So I can't wait to continue to be a part of your life and the future of this, as well as anything else you do in the future that I'd love to just always be a part of, to know what's going on in your crazy mind, dude, your crazy entrepreneurial mind. So I appreciate you. And we also look for top 1%ers, people in their industry are top 1%. You're definitely there in a couple of these industries. And what does that mean? That means you constantly are thinking differently and striving to be the outlier, doing things that other people aren't thinking about. And that's fun. That's fun. And our listeners will thrive on that as well. So I tell you what, thanks a lot for being here, buddy. We really appreciate you.
My pleasure. And Gary, you're an inspiration to me, and I'm sure all of your listeners. So thank you for your support. And I look forward to tackling the world with you.